Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to part one of my first ever, YouTube series here. We're going to be explaining to y'all the very basics of Studio. So there's technically no scripting in here quite yet. Hopefully, I'm gonna post the next one next week. But this is like a freestyle, by the way. I'm Eminem from 8 Mile. This is all off the dome. So if I mess up anything, just someone put a comment of what you think should also go along with this video, and I'll pin it or whatever if I think other people that are watching will get benefit out of that. So first of all, explore and properties. That's basically what we're going over here in this video. So explore we have here on the right, we have properties over here on the left. I can't remember exactly what it looks like when you first load in Studio. I believe this is what it's like. As long as y'all have Explorer and Properties, y'all are good to go. If you cannot find it, if y'all don't have Explorer and Properties anywhere, there's this View tab up here. Hopefully I can zoom in on it. I don't know how good my editing is, but we're going to find out. So we got this view right up here. It should be the two biggest buttons all the way on the left, Explorer and Properties. If you just select both of them on, they should appear right away. So, and if you have any problems with that, comment and I'll try to respond and help you out. But basically, we're just going to be focusing on the workspace, which is under Explorer, because the rest can get a little bit complicated if you don't know scripting. So we'll do deeper dives on them later in the future. So, first of all, what we have in Workspace, whatever is in Workspace is in the actual game. So, we have this right here. I hover my mouse over it. That's a spawn location. This is where the players spawn. You click on it, it automatically shows you what you've highlighted here under the Workspace. And now you can see the Properties tab is completely filled up with a bunch of random stuff we can do. Basically, what Properties is the best way I could describe it is what makes up this part. So right here we have brick color, for example, medium stone gray. As you can see, it is a medium stone gray color. So once again, you have all this here in the workspace, but today we're not going to be focusing on the spawn location. We will be focusing on my Willy. Baking in the sun. It's looking glorious right now, quite massive, but it's really just based on perspective, because if you go up here, it doesn't look so big anymore, does it? But regardless of my Willy size, we will be using this to help y'all understand the basics. What we're going to do though is we're going to open up the model tab right up here. It should be right by the home tab. And we're going to go over these real quick, because these are pretty much what you want to use when you're managing blocks in the workspace. First we have select. That's the default that I was showing you. It gets highlighted when you hover over it. You click it, shows up in the Explorer. Very simple. Next we have move. It does what you think it would. It moves it, whatever direction you feel like. If you ever want to undo whatever you did, I'm going to hopefully once again know how to zoom. It's this undo button right here that I'm clicking on. Brings it back a few steps in case you mess something up. Next we got scale. So remember how I was very insecure about my size earlier. We can make it as big as I want. Look, baking in the sun again, absolutely magnificent. And then now we have rotate. Maybe you want your balls rotated a little bit. Look at that, beautiful. Once again, using the undo button to undo all of this. That's what I'm going to be teaching you for up there today. I feel like those are the most important things you can have. Now, back over here to the Explorer under Workspace. We're going to select the right ball. What we're going to do with this right ball is, you know what, maybe this is Papa Smurf, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to click on here where it's the medium stone gray that we talked about earlier. We can make it blue. This is Papa Smurf now, you know what I mean? Or Dr. Manhattan, whichever one you think is better. And then you're going to make it go full Papa Smurf. Now, your Willy is blue. So, what else could we do? Up next we have cast shadow. So let's select the shaft for this one. So cast shadow. If you unselect this, your shaft doesn't have a shadow. You're just balls at this point. But that's what that does. Color, it's basically like brick color, but there's no preset. It gives you the this RGB little lineup. You could research more into RGB if you want. I'm no expert. I know I point and click, and that's what the color it gives me. So that's RGB basically. Material. Let's say Papa Smurf has AIDS. This is what Papa Smurf's meat would look like with AIDS. But realistically, you can do whatever you want. We have asphalt, and a bunch of other stuff. It's much easier to see because these are surprising. My willy is a little big, but if you go up closer, you're able to see in more fine detail the cobblestone. So you just play around with it, really. But yeah, that's basically what that does. Material variant. I don't really use that, so it's irrelevant. So we're gonna go back. Reflectance, just makes the material more reflective. This is obviously cobblestone. You have to pick a reflective material like metal for it to work. Transparency, this is a big one right here. So let's say you have like a wall in your game or whatever, and they unlock a certain amount of coins, they buy it, the wall disappears. You can use this to make it disappear. 1 being fully transparent, 0 being fully what they call opaque, which means you can't see through it. Next, we have, I don't even know what lock does, I'm going to be honest with you. But here, this is a pretty important one, name. So right now it's just called part. We have 3 parts here in the Explorer. So if I unselect it, let's say I'm somewhere across the map. I don't know which one I'm selecting. We just have 3 parts. I have no clue what I'm selecting here, right? So it's common practice to name your part something useful once you place it in. So right here, this is going to be the shaft. So now look, it's named shaft. Parent, right here, it's the workspace. So obviously, or not obviously for y'all, what a parent is basically whatever this object is under. So right here, it's the workspace, because if we open and close this workspace right here, you can see everything in here would be considered its children. Whenever you're coding and you start getting children and stuff, it starts sounding a little weird. But that's besides the point. That's basically what the parent is. It's the workspace. And you can put the parts inside the parts. So let's say, we want the 2 balls to go underneath the shaft. We can drag them into the shaft. That sounds so weird. I'm so sorry. You can drag them into the shaft, and then now you got the 2 parts underneath the shaft. So it's an easy way to clear up space. And now if you go to the parts parents, wherever it is, shaft. Now it's the shaft, and then you go to the shaft, and it's workspace. And I feel like that's the best way I could explain it to you. Size. So this is directly with the scale tool I showed you from earlier. As you can see, you move it, it goes up and down. Well, hold on, sorry. It's when these parts are in it, it'll also scale these with it. But let's say we just have the shaft selected. You can see the size of the Y value, because the Y is up and down. Y value is going up and down depending on if I'm changing it or not. Same with the X and the Z. But what we got now here after size is pretty self-explanatory. We have position. Now what the position is directly correlated with the move. So we can move it down the Z-axis here, and you can see that the Z-axis is changing. Move it down the X, you can see that the X is changing, and etc. Same with the Y. So very helpful when you're trying to figure out exactly where something is, if you want things to line up perfectly or whatever. Orientation. Orientation is basically the rotation, so you could remember it. Once again, I'm freestyling. I'm Eminem, 8 Mile. Orientation rhymes with rotation. Look, this rotates, orientation rotates. Or not rotates, it changes, I guess is the best way to say it. But that's basically what that does. Pivot set, I'll explain this probably in a different video. I don't think I should be explaining it right now. Enable fluid forces. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'm assuming it affects the Roblox water in the terrain, but I'm not exactly sure what that does. I'll have to get back on that. Can collide. This is a big one. If you turn it off, people can walk right through it. So remember that wall example I gave you earlier. They purchased the new area. They need to walk through the wall that's now invisible. You can turn off can collide, which will make it so their player will just walk straight through it. And then can query, can touch. I'll explain this later. Can touch basically means that whenever the player touches the part, it fires something in the server. So it's a good way to figure out when someone's touching something. So let's say you have a sword, for example, and you hit someone else with the sword. That will shoot out a touch event. Now we have collision group. Probably best I get into that later. Anchored. So currently, right now, it is not anchored. So what this means is basically frozen in place. So let's say we have just the shaft, and then we run the game. Obviously, it's not anchored. So what we can expect is for it to fall over. As you can see, my penis is in absolute pieces. So what we can do to change this is we set the anchor to true. I'm just gonna make it so we run it instead of play it, so we can see. The shaft is now in place. These right here, yeah, let's move them out of the way. Still here, still in place, because it is anchored. So now, next, we got custom physical properties. Now this is, once again, more advanced. Probably won't get into it, but basically, you can change the exact properties of it. So we have density, I'll just explain all of this a different day. Y'all shouldn't be worrying about this right now. You don't have to worry about it at all, actually. Mass list, same thing with this. I'm not going to really describe it right now. Root priority. I'm going to be honest, no idea what that does. Shape. This is basically, So since this is a part, you can spawn in multiple parts. There's a block, there's a corner wedge, there's cylinder, there's a ball, also a sphere. But, we're keeping it as block right now. And I feel like that's basically all you really need to know properties-wise for parts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at different things we can do with these parts. So let's say we have all of these right now. All of these parts are part of my Willy. They're currently taking up a lot of space. This is three parts in the workspace. It's not fun to look at. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually group them together. So how you can do this is either you can hold control down and left click on each one, or if they're all, coincidentally in line, you can just hold left click and drag and it gets all of them. But what you can do now is you can right click and then group as model. So now look, now it is just one thing, but the parts don't go away. All the parts are still in it. Now we'll do what we did earlier and we'll name it Willy, because this is now my Willy. So now that we got our Willy over here, what we can do is I'm going to show y'all. Actually, I might just cut off the video here. I feel like these are the basics. I don't really know what else y'all need to know. I know I sound really stupid right now, but as I said, 8 Mile Freestyle. I'm the realest man you'll ever meet. I just say what comes to my mind. This is basically it. I guess I could go over what these other things in Explore, since the title does say Explore. So players, basically, whenever somebody joins your game, their player goes under here. It's kind of like how the Willy is for workspace. It will be whatever your player's name is. Here, I'll show you real quick, actually. So we'll just play the game right now. If we look under players, we have Oofer Gang for life. That's me. Me right there. Lighting. We have, there's a bunch of different things in here. Ooh. I might go into a different video with lighting, like way further down the line. But basically, it affects the atmosphere. It can affect the shadows. It can affect a bunch of different things. Depth of field. There's a bunch of different things that this overall affects. It kind of helps you distinguish a vibe out of your game. So if you want things to be more gloomy, this is where you'd go to mess with stuff. Material service, no idea. No clue what it does. I'm pretty sure it actually can change what like your wood planks would look like if you select it. But this is, I don't know. I don't really mess with it. Replicated first is whatever you have in here is the first to load in, basically. Replicated storage, this is stuff so let's say you put in the Willy. You put the Willy in replicated storage. You can use a script to spawn in thousands of Willies. But then you could have the one unique Willy that you first made always in there. And then server script service, this is where majority of your main scripts will go. That's basically it for that. Server storage, same thing as replicated storage, but if you're a hacker, you basically can't see what's in this. So this is very useful when you don't want hackers to like see something. Is a very basic way of saying it. Starter GUI, this is all of the stuff that's on the screen. I'm gonna have like a whole separate thing about this later. But yeah, this is the frame or whatever. You could turn that into a button. It could be a go button, whatever, for whatever game. Starter pack. Here, I'll show you how to open up Toolbox. So if you go to View again, there's this Toolbox icon right here. Hopefully, once again, I can zoom in. Click on Sword. Look up a sword in Models. Okay. In Starter Pack. So now, since this is in Starter Pack, it should immediately spawn in with my character. So now that we're loaded in here, you can see that I have the sword down here. Now, obviously, this is the sword in a lot of different Roblox games. It's nothing special. I'm just using it as a talking point. We have starter player, which this is a little bit more advanced when it comes to an explanation, but starter player scripts is basically, remember how I showed you the players all go in right here? It will immediately put this script into your player, basically every player that joins the game. Starter character, it's basically the same thing. Here, I'm going to play again to show you, but you're going to have two places where your player will be. You'll have one under the players, and you'll have one as a model under workspace. Starter character will put the script into here. Starter player will put it under the player. Once again, don't worry about it too much right now because you're not using scripts. Teams is something completely else. I might explain it. I don't really use it that much. You don't really have to. Sound service, basically what you think, it handles sound. Text chat service, this is when you're saying naughty words or whatever in the chat. This is basically all of this right there. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow we're probably going to start focusing on actual scripts. We're going to show you prints, variables. We might make it so our Willy will be able to change multiple different colors. So instead of it being blue, maybe we can make it green, like the Incredible Hulk. You know what I mean? That's probably about the same size as the Incredible Hulks. But regardless, thank you all for watching. Definitely comment what I should improve because this is my first one. If I get 20 likes, I'll actually buy a microphone. All right, I'll see you.